To adapt a Shakespeare quote, all the world's a story, and all the men and women endless tellers. Welcome to this third episode of Tied to the Moon, a podcast about yearning and learning to dance with the rhythms of nature, starting with allocating 1 day a week for rest. My name is Kate Lawrence, and it's one full lunar cycle since the first episode. Here I am, back at the start, like a dawning day. And in realising that, I felt called to do a little quarter-by-quarter lunar retrospective. 4 weeks, each week with a highlight, a flavour, an arc, buried yet knowable with a little excavation. Maybe there's a pattern, a thread between each week. Maybe there's a thread between each week and the moon. We are, after all, sense-making machines. But actually, that is not what this episode is about. It is about the week that has just been. Day 1, Friday. My 16-year-old, Ainsley, is coughing as he's getting ready for school. I think you better do a test, I yell as I sit down with my morning coffee. A few minutes later he calls back, yeah, there's 2 lines. I get up and annoyingly repeat what he has just said. There's 2 lines. And then I verbalise the obvious conclusion. So you've got COVID then? For once he doesn't quip, nah, I think it's a mistake, or nah, it probably means I've got measles, or any number of sarcastic rejoinders my stating the obvious habit usually evokes. Yeah, I've got COVID, is all he can muster. And with that, he vanishes to his room. I sit back down. The rona has finally arrived. After 2 years and 3 shots each, our house has now been admitted to the COVID club. I test negative, which makes things trickier. I now need to keep away from Ainsley, and we both need to keep away from my 23-year-old who has kidney disease. So a bit of rapid Google searching and I make a bit of a plan. I grab anything I need from Sam's end of the house and head down to my study, which is at Ainsley's end. And then I cancel a surprising number of plans and eventually get on with my usual work. It's an odd day though. Waves of feeling dreamy and distant wash over me, and I wonder, am I getting it? Is that it? And then I berate myself for these capricious visions I've got of little tiny tiptoeing COVID critters creeping along my veins. Day 2, Saturday. I wake up and I feel a bit foggy, heavy and slow. This calls for another test. Yep, I am positive. So I pick up my COVID story package and tuck it into my back pocket. It contains files from 2 years of conversations and communications, anecdotes and government declarations. But most importantly, it contains 2 pairs of very recent case studies. Pair number 1. My sister and her husband had COVID 2 weeks ago. She described it as symptoms like a bad cold that comes on all at once, and otherwise not too bad. And last week, a friend wrote to say, my symptoms were fairly mild and I only spent a day in bed. Then pair number 2 comes from 2 conversations with 2 women in my local community who are both suffering from long COVID, ongoing tiredness, brain fog and breathlessness, and one also has repeated bouts of significant heart palpitations. So with a story bank full of possibilities, I actually realise that my diagnosis now makes things a lot easier practically. particularly for Ainsley. He and I don't need to avoid each other anymore. We can both hang out at this end of the house. We just need to avoid Sam. That day I am fortuitously enrolled in an online writing workshop, which makes it a perfect day for being in ISO. My physical state stays much the same, and the workshop does its job of diverting me, although it is a bit of a struggle towards the end. In the evening, finally, after what seems like a long wait, the online delivery van arrives with yesterday's order of groceries, although by this stage I have no appetite. We are settled now for ISO. My awareness that it will be Sunday the next day barely registers, and when it does, it seems almost irrelevant. I am now in a much bigger, all-encompassing space-time of illness and rest. My minimal preparation is to put the computer away before I go to bed. Day 3, Sunday. I wake up and I feel much the same, with the addition of a very faint ache in my head. I light a candle, my only real reminder that it is Sunday, and the day passes pleasantly enough. I go to bed thinking I've pretty much nailed this COVID thing. Mild dose, few symptoms. Thanks very much to those 3 doses of vaccine. Day 4, Monday. I sleep on top of sleep, and in the morning I struggle out of bed feeling like I haven't slept at all. My head is thumping with a dull pulse, and nothing fells me more certainly than a headache. Waves of fever wash over me, my eyes sting, my back aches. There's a slightly strange sensation in my mind. I can't stomach coffee, but I try some muesli, hoping it'll make me feel better. I lie on the couch, but the light hurts my eyes. I go back to bed, I read and sleep fitfully on and off for most of the morning. I get up, I lay back on the couch again. Ainsley makes me an egg on toast. I go back to bed and I read until I can't. I sweat and I hold my head and I rock around in the bed. It's not actually that bad really, but in that moment it is all that I am. I wonder if I lost the lottery, or if it's more personal than that. Is there something wrong with me and the choices I've made that mean I can't just say, oh, it was like a bad cold, or I was only one day in bed? I wonder, is the COVID coursing through me just getting its mojo and the worst is yet to come? Maybe I'll get long COVID, or maybe some serious side effects. Maybe hospitalisation is in my future. Suddenly I realise I don't know what is going to unfold with this invader of my body. I am in the crossing and the path forward is dark. I feel too shitty to dwell anymore on possibilities, good or bad. I am in the bottom of the burrow and all I can do is yield and accept that my journey is mine alone and it's not dependent or even connected to those stories I carried with me down the tunnel. I am in liminal space-time, at the point of descent. Maybe there's further down to go. I don't and can't know. There is only now and only one thing to do. Surrender. I sleep some more. I get up, I lie on the couch, I dig out the Panadol. I take 2 and go to bed early. I wake in the night awash in my own sweat and drift back to sleep. Day 5. I wake, headache-free. I move, I get up, tentatively at first, but pretty soon there is a slight spring in my step. I feel all right, like pretty good, like amazing compared to the day before. I wonder if it's the 2 Panadol that's still working and the headache is going to come back, but by lunchtime that seems unlikely. I bustle around doing things only to be hauled back by a wave of fever or tiredness, the body guiding my recovery pace, which I've learned from bitter experience is well worth listening to. But I'm definitely on the mend. The next day, I write an email to a friend, and before I can even blink, I've written, "I've caught the dreaded beast, although I hope I'm over the worst of it, and it wasn't that bad." What? Wait, what just happened? I just whitewashed my own experience that somehow actually I think was important. So on reflection, I think what's happening is the peak end rule is at work in my memory. The peak end rule is this psychological theory which says that we tend to remember the most emotionally intense points and the end points of experiences we have. For me, while the bottom of the burrow moment was insightful, the most intense emotional moment is the morning of day 5, when I feel like the first flower of spring. And the end point, the fact that the worst is over, it colours everything else before it, much like a newborn baby relegates the pain of childbirth to the back corner. Sometimes we are so quick to move on, we miss the jewels on the cave floor, the gems of insight just waiting for the flicker of reflection so they can glint and guide us to deeper understanding. I don't really suppose that I can say anything that hasn't already been said by someone somewhere in the world about COVID. We all have our experience of it, and it's this universality that's one of the gifts and horrors of contagious diseases. We are shown in no uncertain terms that we are all connected. Ever since my childhood illnesses brought with them mind tricks and fever hallucinations, illness has seemed to me to be a journey that's not just physical, it's a portal, a descent and return. Illness is a liminal time, a place of crossing, and I always come back different, humbled not only by my body's frailty, but by the reminder that I am not in control. I am at the mercy of something much greater than me or any of us. And I also come back grateful all over again for the health that I do have. It's this remembering, I think, that the ancients knew more closely. They knew our tendency to forget that we are beholden to nature. And so they built in mechanisms to regularly remind them, ceremonies and rituals, stories and prayers, temples and altars. Now we must remind ourselves and each other over and over and over of where the path is that leads to a life that sings. Illness is a story, initiation, descent, return. And like all great stories, we must give it resolution. We must make meaning from it. And just before I go, let me put it on the record so I don't tempt fate, that I do not assume on day 7 that the worst of COVID is behind me. It might be, and I hope it is, but it might not be as well. Thanks for listening to Tied to the Moon. If you like this podcast, please rate and review it on iTunes or wherever you listen, and tell other people about it. And if you have any ideas, suggestions, requests, comments or feedback, I would love to hear from you. You can find the show notes and contact details at storyground.com.au. Theme music for this podcast is by Danya from Audio Jungle. This podcast is a production of Storyground and me, Kate Lawrence, and it's made on the traditional lands of the Gunung Willumbullock at the foot of Mount Macedon, 65 kilometres northwest of Melbourne, Australia.